Since Labour have come to power, it has been doom and gloom as they have discussed all the things that they need to do to fill this quote-unquote £22 billion black hole. Due to this mythical black hole, we have seen the government put up taxes and cut back on certain things, like the winter fuel payments for pensioners. Nigel Farage, the Reform Party leader, has debunked this myth, and we will check out exactly what he has said in this video. But first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and join our fast-growing community. Nigel Farage blasted Rachel Reeves's winter fuel allowance cut on Monday, describing it as a terrible mistake by the Labour government, while providing his solution to the problem and exposing that this is a huge lie. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, announced that from this winter, households in England and Wales will no longer be entitled to the winter fuel payment unless they receive pension credit or other means-tested benefits. Speaking to reporters at the party's Law and Order press conference, Farage said, "Well, they made a terrible mistake, haven't they? I mean, they've alienated there are 10 million people going to lose the winter fuel allowance. Yes, it's true some of them are well-off pensioners, but they are actually, as a percentage, relatively small." Farage just took 13 words to give his solution, offering out the winter fuel payment in a fair way, stating, "Why we can't link winter fuel payment to what tax rate you pay." He added, "So that wealthy pensioners would be taken out of the system via that method, I have no idea." The leader of Reform went on to describe how energy prices are rising in the UK, making the cuts even worse for pensioners. He said, "And it's worth remembering that we are paying our pensioners, all of us, including our manufacturers. We have the most expensive energy prices in the world. Our electricity prices are 74% higher than America's, 33% higher than our next-door neighbours in France. So we're doing this to a group of people nearly all living on very limited fixed incomes at a time when bills are sky-high anyway, let alone what the implications for gas and oil prices might be as a result of what is going on in the Middle East." Farage went on to describe one of his constituents who has a very small private pension, and because of this, he's going to lose his winter fuel payment. Farage continued, "I don't think the Labour government even begin to understand just how wrong and unfair this seems to so many people." More than 1 in 4 pensioners set to be hit by the axing of the allowance are over the age of 80. An analysis of the latest data from the Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, shows some 27% of OAPs set to miss out are over 80, a total of 2.8 million. The figures have prompted fresh calls for Starmer to U-turn on his controversial decision. Dennis Reed, the director of the Silver Voices campaign group, said, "The scrapping of the winter fuel payment must rank as one of the most disgraceful and immoral decisions ever taken by a Labour government. They are very disturbing figures. It shows that those most in need of the winter fuel payments are going to be clobbered by this policy. The universal payment was £300 for everybody over 80, and that higher payment recognised the fact that if you're over 80, you're much more likely to suffer very badly from the cold." In other news, Iran was behind at least 20 deadly plots in the UK over the past 2 years, according to the head of MI5, as he warned of an increased terror risk linked to the conflict in the Middle East. In a speech at the Counter-Terrorism Operations Centre in West London, Ken McCallum said that ISIS and Al-Qaeda were on the rise again and attempting to export terrorism. He told his audience, Al-Qaeda had sought to capitalise on conflict in the Middle East, calling for violent action. ISIS was of particular concern, the MI5 Director General said. Today's Islamic State is not the force it was a decade ago, but after a few years of being pinned well back, they've resumed efforts to export terrorism. The ISKP, Islamic State Khorasan Province, attack in Moscow was a brutal demonstration of its capability. The attack on a Moscow concert hall last March was the worst terror atrocity in Russia in recent years, killing 145 people and injuring 500 others. Ken McCallum said, "We and many European partners are detecting IS-connected activity in our homelands, which we are moving early to disrupt." To illustrate the increasing threat, he revealed that over the last month, more than a third of MI5's top priority investigations have had some form of connection to organized overseas terrorist groups. Late last year, a man in Coventry was jailed for life for designing a 3D printed armed drone for IS in West Africa, he said. Just a few weeks earlier, 2 brothers from Birmingham were jailed for an attempt to join ISKP in Afghanistan. These cases are not wild outliers. More will be coming through the courts. Organized groups have the numbers and the know-how to carry out or inspire horrendous mass causality attacks. MI5 chief said that roughly 75% of terror threats his teams were dealing were Islamist-inspired, and 25% were related to far-right extremism. He revealed that police and MI5 had foiled 43 late-stage terror plots since 2017, with some of those plotters attempting to get hold of firearms and explosives. The evolving conflict between Israel and Iran and its terror proxies pose a heightened risk at home, he warned. We are powerfully alive to the risk that events in the Middle East directly trigger terrorist action in the UK, as we saw with last October's knife attack in Hartlepool. The ripples from conflict in that region will not necessarily arrive at our shores in a straightforward fashion. They will be filtered through the lens of online media and mixed with existing views and grievances in unpredictable ways. The MI5 Director General said that state actors like Iran also pose a growing threat and could be triggered into further aggression by war in the Middle East. Since January 2022, with police partners, we have responded to 20 Iran-backed plots, presenting potentially lethal threats to British citizens and UK residents. As events unfold in the Middle East, we will give our fullest attention to the risk of an increase in, or broadening of, Iranian state aggression in the UK. Like the Russian services, Iranian state actors make extensive use of criminals as proxies. Last December, a man was jailed for reconnaissance he had carried out against the then headquarters of the Iran International Media Organization. MI5 is also seeing an increase in the number of people attempting to travel abroad to join up with terror groups. Although not on the same scale as the exodus to join up with ISIS almost a decade ago, Mr. McCallum said, "We are seeing a bit of an upswing in attempts to travel overseas." More broadly, the threat from state actors has seen a dramatic rise in recent months. Over the past year, the number of state threat investigations being run by MI5 has increased by 48%. Russia, in particular, is posing an increasing threat to the UK, the MI5 boss said. The UK's leading role in supporting Ukraine means we loom large in the fevered imagination of Putin's regime, and we should expect to see continued acts of aggression here at home. The GRU, Russian military intelligence, is on a substantial mission to generate mayhem on British and European streets. We've seen arson, sabotage and more, dangerous actions conducted with increasing recklessness. What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you. Take care. Goodbye.